Here are over 15 ways you can improve your videos. Tip 1. Add motion. Static shots have their purpose and are a great way to establish a scene, but oftentimes adding motion can take your video to a higher level. Be thoughtful in the way you add movement. Do you want shaky handheld footage? Do you want smooth, subtle motion? Tools like gimbals and dollies can help achieve this look. Or try shooting in a higher frame rate to be able to slow down in post-production if you need to be shooting handheld. Shoot at a higher resolution than your desired output so you can add subtle zooms or pans while editing. Tip 2. Use foreground elements. Try framing your composition with elements in the foreground. Shoot through things or around things, or perhaps even focus on the foreground element while the action takes place in the background. Try to add a slow rack focus from the foreground element to the action in the background. Tip 3. Switch up focal lengths. Your kit zoom lens is great for general shooting, and to be honest, we could get away with a 24 to 70mm lens for most shoots. But using a longer telephoto lens adds a professional look with its compressed background and beautiful bokeh. This style of shot also lets the viewer focus in on a subject with fewer distractions. Conversely, if you're shooting something where you really want to show your subject in their environment, pop on a wide lens. Tip 4. Film at a different time. Try shooting the same shot at sunrise, high noon, and sunset. You'll notice dramatically different shots with naturally different lighting. Golden hour, the hour after sunrise and before sunset, and magic hour, the hour before sunrise and after sunset, are great times to shoot. Skies get more dramatic, full of color and life. While it may take getting up a bit earlier than normal or coordination with your crew, if you have one, this is one of the best ways to instantly improve a shot. Tip 5. Use proper lighting. Speaking of light, we love natural light, but there's also a time for using artificial light kits and trying to control natural light. Study up on 3-point lighting and other common portrait photography lighting styles to really give a mood to your story. Lighting can instantly make your video feel happier, sadder, scarier. It can give a dreamy or clean corporate vibe. While lighting is an entire art form in itself, LED panels are cheaper and easier to use than ever, and it is likely going to be a worthwhile investment if you plan on doing professional video work. Tip 6. Capture the scene at multiple angles. One of the best ways to make your videos more visually dynamic is to capture scenes in multiple angles. For those of us who are typically solo videographers or vloggers, the extra effort of shooting something in different wide, medium, and close-up shots may seem like a lot of work, but it will pay off in the edit. Get creative with your angles, break the rules, your viewers will appreciate the effort. Tip 7. Track motion. If you're trying to video something in motion like a person walking down the street or a car racing by, the easiest way to capture this is by panning your camera with the subject. Take this to a more advanced level by tracking the motion. Tracking means moving your camera along with the subject in motion. This may mean practicing your walking and shooting skills, using a gimbal or dolly, or even getting a buddy to drive a car while you shoot out the window. Tracking shots are some of the most iconic shots in film history and add a higher quality to your cinematography. Tip 8. Capture for slow motion. Shooting at higher frame rates like 60, 120, or even 240 frames per second has become synonymous with many of the most popular cinematic YouTubers and video creators out there today. And there's a reason for it. It's beautiful. There's something about seeing movement slowed down that is captivating for your audience. But the tip should really be, don't capture everything in slow motion. There's a time and place for it. Use it when you want to slow down fast motion like action sports, or when you want to show off the details of a moving subject like a product, or when you want to add motion to your shot but don't have stabilization like a gimbal. Tip 9. Set your scene with aerials. Is this a cop-out? Maybe. I know drones aren't available to everyone, but it's never been more affordable to up your video game with the epicness of an aerial shot. Aerials are perfect for setting the location and scenery of your video. They're also good for getting tracking shots that would be hard or impossible to do so without a drone. Just because you have a drone doesn't mean you can forget your principles like composition, lighting, and storytelling. You can take your drone shots to the next level with neutral density filters that allow you to shoot at a lower f-stop with a shallow depth of field. And remember to test at different times of the day. The light and color of the sky will dramatically change the way your shots come out. Tip 10. Compress time with a time-lapse or hyperlapse. Another visually creative technique to add to your videography tool belt is the time-lapse. You can do this the proper way by capturing photos at regular intervals. Many modern cameras have the capabilities of doing this internally. You would then take all of the photos into your editing software and edit them together sequentially, usually one frame at a time. Or you can simply shoot a longer video and speed it up in post. Time lapses are a great way to help transition time in your video, like from one day to the next. It's also a great way to quickly show the progression of something that takes a long time. Add motion to your time lapse to make it a hyperlapse. It'll take lots of practice to do this smoothly, and if you want an easy way to get this effect, you can add subtle zooms or pans in post-production if your resolution is high enough. Tip 11. Add an ND filter to your kit. If there's one piece of affordable equipment that you should add to your camera bag, it's the Variable Neutral Density or ND filter. These typically screw onto the end of your lens, and you'll need to get one that matches the diameter of your lens. ND filters cut down light entering your lens, and that helps you get cinematic shallow depth of field with a wide open aperture even during the bright daylight. Tip 12. Pay attention to your background. While your subject is the star of the show, your background is just as important for telling their story. The background should always add to your story, not detract. Sometimes this means getting the cleanest, most abstract background possible so your subject can stand out. A shallow depth of field achieved with a wide open aperture and/or a telephoto lens is a great way to do this with your camera. Or it might mean trying to find an environment where there's not many distractions in the background. Other times, your background should be a character of the video itself. Notice how most of your favorite YouTubers likely put a lot of time and effort into designing their backdrop. It's not something to skimp on. Also, when out in the field, look around. Sometimes simply moving your camera 90 degrees can result in a completely different shot. Tip 13. Add a second camera. Shooting with two cameras gives you more options for the edit. This is really important for interview or talking head-based videos. Having a second shot gives you something to cut to, which will help cover any mistakes or when trying to condense what is being said. It also keeps your videos visually interesting for the viewer instead of watching one long shot. Tip 14. Think photo composition techniques. Studying photography is a great way to improve your videography eye. Several common rules include the rule of thirds, which is placing subjects at the intersection of the thirds lines, leading lines, using natural lines in your video's frame that lead the viewer's eyes to the subject, and framing within a frame, finding natural frames to put your subject in. These composition techniques will naturally give your video a balanced and interesting look. But there's also a time to break these rules. Centering your subject is also a common composition nowadays and is often done when speaking directly to the camera. This is an engaging composition that helps build a direct connection with your viewer. Tip 15, storyboard your project. Do your homework before the shoot starts. This includes, at the very least, writing out a shot list. Take this to the next level by coming up with a storyboard that can help you pre-visualize what shots you want to get. It will also help any crew members working with you know exactly what you're trying to achieve. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. A scrap of paper with your best doodles is just fine. Tip 16, remember your story. At the end of the day, we can throw out all of the previous tips if we don't think about story. Every video has a story, whether it's a promotional commercial, a travel vlog, a documentary or music video, or a narrative short film. Every shot moves your story forward and helps to tell that story. So whenever you plan a shot, always think to yourself, how can that shot better tell your story? And that's a wrap. I hope you've enjoyed these tips and that this video provides an actionable and inspirational list to fall back on if you ever feel in a creative rut. Now keep going and enjoy the full course. Cheers.